Welcome to another edition of On the Bookshelf. I'm Pete Solomon. We all want to do right by our kids. And one of the best things we can do for young people as they begin to grow is to develop a love of reading and eventually maybe writing. Somebody who had that experience and has parlayed that into the opportunity to become a writer herself is Christine Ricci-McNamee. She's the author of the charming children's book, Logan and the Lost Luggage. We're delighted to have Christine as our guest, and Christine is about to read an excerpt from her book. Thank you, Christine.
Hello, Pete. Logan was a 2-year-old Cocker Spaniel who lived in Boston and loved to play with toys and chase squirrels. He could even sing. He also had a secret. With his magic bone in his mouth, he had special powers. "Come on, Logan, we're going to be late for the airport," his master called. Today was going to be a good day. He was going on a trip with his family. Logan, with his magic bone in his mouth and tail wagging, ran out of the house and jumped into the car. He was excited. They were going to visit his master's parents in Florida. He loved going there. They always gave him good treats. One time he got to eat spaghetti and meatballs. At the airport terminal, his master bent down to him and said, "I'm sorry, Logan, but we have to put you in the travel crate. It's for your own safety." Logan didn't mind the crate. It had its toys in it, and he had his magic bone. They checked in at the ticket counter. "Oh, what a handsome dog," the airline lady said as she put him on the conveyor belt. "Bye, Logan. We'll see you in Florida," his family shouted and waved. He took a ride into the belly of the plane with his family's luggage. There were 2 other animals with him, a Great Dane and an alley cat. "Hi, my name is Logan, and I'm so excited to fly. What are your names?" "Hi, I'm Charlie, and this is Anne," the Great Dane said. "I love to fly, but Anne doesn't." "I used to get airsick," Anne replied, "but my mother says I've outgrown it now, so it's not that bad." Logan smiled at both of them, then nestled down to sleep in his crate for the night. After a short time in the air, the plane landed. Logan said goodbye to Charlie and Anne and was soon back on the conveyor belt to the baggage claim area where his family would be waiting for him. "Hello, boy," his master said, patting him on the head. "Did you have a nice flight?" Logan smiled and licked his master's face as if to say yes. "That's good," his master said, laughing. "Now let's get you out of that crate." "Where's our luggage, John?" Logan heard his mother say with a worried look on her face. "I don't know, dear. I don't see it. Let's ask the airline. I hope it's not lost." "I'll find the luggage," Logan thought to himself. "Then I'll be a hero and get a special treat." Just like that, with the magic bone in his mouth, Logan disappeared from sight.
Christine, it's a charming book,
Thank
and
you.
children are exposed, as they hear the story, to friendship and leadership and teamwork and cooperation and a little geography. Is that how you laid it out?
Yes, I certainly did. I wanted it to be fun and educational at the same time.
And in fact, it is. Now, we'll talk about the book in just a second, but let's spend a minute talking about you. You grew up in East Boston, right?
I did, Orion Heights.
So
yep.
in the shadow of Logan Airport, and
Yep.
for 16 years, you had a dog, Cocker Spaniel, right?
Yes, named
and the
Logan.
dog's name is
Yep.
Logan. That's not a coincidence, is
Nope.
it? You developed an early interest in reading, I know. Can you
Yes.
imagine any time in your life when you weren't interested in reading?
No, I've been reading since probably 6 or 8 years old when my mother used to take me to the library in Orion Heights. We would do the summer reading club every year, and they'd have contests and meet other children. It was very nice.
As you were a child and you were beginning to read and spread your wings as a reader, did you have any writers that you particularly admired or influenced you later when you became a writer?
I liked Beverly Cleary. I read all her books, and of course Judy Blume for children's authors. Then as I got older, I liked Mary Higgins Clark. She was one of my favorites, or still is actually.
Now, You matriculated at Salem State University, where you graduated with honors. I know your degree is in English and written communication.
Yes.
So when you went to Salem State, becoming a writer was important to you, right?
Yes, it was. Yep.
And it's interesting, when you talk to writers, they all seem to have backgrounds beyond the written word, and your background is wide and varied. I know that you're a certified paralegal.
Yes.
I know that you've run your family's business. You have various hobbies. How have all these things that you've experienced played into your writing, not only for children, but whatever other writing you do?
Well, most of it I use the writing for relaxation. It's just an outlet, because a lot of times life can be stressful with, businesses and different things. So I use it as an outlet.
We're going to get back to Logan and the Lost Luggage in a moment, but you also wrote back in '04 Flames of Feeling, which is a collection of poems for children.
Yes.
When you were a little girl, if a book like that existed, would that have been a book that appealed to you?
Yes, because I liked a different genre of things when I was a kid. I like all different types of writing and reading. Any kind of book I could get my hands on, I always enjoyed.
How did you select the poems for the book?
I wrote them myself just randomly. They just sort of all came to me at different times in my life, from the period of 8 years old to 18, what I was going through, and then I just started writing about it.
Interesting. Interesting. Now, Logan, as you told us as you read the excerpt of the book, has a magic bone.
He does.
And in reading about that, a lot of little children have a teddy bear, or a panda, or a blanket. Is the magic bone his?
Yes, it is. It's his little security blanket that he takes with him.
So kids could certainly relate to that.
Yes, they certainly can.
Now, in quest of the family's lost luggage, Logan travels to 7 countries, meets 7 different animals, and they're all eager to help him. This feeling of camaraderie, this is something I think every kid can learn from.
Yes, and they should. That we're all as different as we all are. We can all work together for a common goal.
It's interesting. Younger children have an opportunity to discover life beyond our borders. But as a parent, younger children sometimes have problems with time and with distance. For a kid who's hungry, if you say dinner's going to be ready in 15 minutes, that's about 2 hours. and if you say, well, we're going to travel, it could be to Paris, as Logan does, or the Antarctic, or it could be to another town on the North Shore. This, I think, maybe would help a child realize that there are people who are a little different in places beyond our borders, and it's interesting how you incorporated this in the book.
Yes, I wanted children to learn about all different countries and all different people and nationalities and cultures, but yet we can all come together when we have to.
So we talked about your first book a moment ago, Flames of Feeling.
Yes.
And now we're talking about your latest book, Logan and the Lost Luggage. Could you compare the writing process as you worked on both of them?
They're so different. Flames of Feeling was just a collection of poems that I wrote through different various years of my life for such a varied time span. But Logan and the Lost Luggage was more personal to me because of my dog. I wanted to immortalize him and do something fun for kids at the same time.
Writing is, of course, a process. Can you compare the first draft of Logan and the Lost Luggage to what you're holding in your lap?
Very few changes. Once I get an idea in my head, I usually just, I know what I want to write in my head, and I get it down on paper and I do an outline. And then after that, it sort of all comes together. So I do very few little changes, maybe names here and there, but I very rarely change things.
Did you share the manuscript with other people? Did you get feedback from people?
Yes, only my publisher, the publisher, Leaning Rock Press. Robin is the publisher. She's very thorough, and that's who I bounced ideas off, and we went back and forth. So that's really who I was involved with it. Now, and the illustrator, of course.
Of course, and I was about to say we should note that Connecticut artist Patrick Reagan provided the very stylized and attractive artwork in the book. How much conversation did you have with him?
A lot, only because I knew what I knew what I envisioned for the book, for each country. He brought my vision to life. I had a specific idea what I wanted for the cover, and he brought that to life. I did give him a lot of free rein with everything else when he read it, because he had his own vision and his own ideas, like with Antarctica with the penguins. So he has his own ideas too, and we collaborate very well.
Now he's in Connecticut, you're here.
Yes.
Did you work by phone? Did you work by computer? How did you?
We just worked all by text, phone, computer, email. Haven't met him yet, but I look forward to meeting him.
Was this the way you envisioned the book when Patrick got the assignment?
Yes. I picked the right artist for this book. He did a tremendous job. Everybody enjoys the pictures. They say they're very realistic. The kids enjoy them. He's very talented.
Is there, and this may be a question, if Patrick were sitting here, it might be a question really for him. Is there a style that children seem to respond to that maybe adults don't? Or is this written in a children's style, or is it just written with good artwork?
I believe it's just written with good artwork. He was so good bringing my vision to life. And so the kids can see and visualize what I wrote and how I wanted it to be.
Now, there are some very positive blurbs on the back of your book, but in addition, what kind of feedback have you gotten from parents and from other teachers?
The parents seem to enjoy it. In fact, I got a review today from a woman on Amazon and on Instagram who said that her 4-year-old wants to know if Logan found the luggage yet. So, and where it is and where they're going next. So the kids are very inquisitive and they really, really like the story.
Kids are different than they were generation or two ago.
That is true.
Many kids have flown at this point in their life, and so I think it's really relatable to modern kids, where maybe when you were growing up, flying was not as commonplace as it is now. People understand now that you can lose luggage in an airport or in Italy.
That's right. Yep, that's correct.
As I understand, you did.
I did. I lost Italy and Palermo Airport in Sicily. They did find it eventually, but it was missing for quite some time.
Well, I could tell you about lost luggage in my life, but we only have half hour. You dedicated the book to your mom. Could you talk about that?
She was a wonderful woman. I'm an only child. She died at 96, not from COVID, but 2 years ago. And she was an inspiration to me as far as taking me to the library to get my first library card, and always bringing home books for me to read and going to the library with me and being involved in my life till the day she died, actually. And I just wanted her to have a special place, you know, to immortalize her in the book, as well as Logan.
Wonderful that you've introduced her to us.
Yeah.
Did she read you? Can you remember books that she read to you that you really enjoyed or that really stuck?
She really didn't read to me. She used to go to the library with me, and we'd bring home books, and I'd have to do the summer reading club program, and we have to write little essays on what we thought of the book and little reviews as a kid, and she would help me with those.
Did that begin the writing skill that you've displayed in this? And
Yes,
the other book?
yes.
Was there a point where you just decided, this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to be a writer?
I think, yes, from the time I was about 8 years old.
Wow.
When I wrote my first poem. I used to send stories into highlights for children and different contests and magazines, and keep trying. I never stopped writing, really.
And writers have to write, correct?
That's right.
Just in general, do you write a little bit every day, or do you have projects going?
No, I have I just completed my second book. It's called Luella and the Librarian, and that'll be coming out mid-November. And another book after this Logan one, a surprise to Logan, a sequel. But I just go with the flow, and when the mood strikes me, I write.
So inspiration can come from anywhere, right?
It can, it can.
I'm thinking, is the next Logan book, having made friends in 7 different countries, going to be Logan runs the State Department?
No, we're going to go to other different countries. It's a little spin on a different story.
Oh, interesting. Oh,
we're going to go to different other countries.
Have you experienced, and I guess Logan was in your head before you really sat down at the computer and put it together, but writers have told us on occasion that it's almost as if the character takes over and makes changes in your head. Have you experienced that as a writer?
It has, to a point, but Logan was, because he was an actual dog, I wanted to immortalize him. And he just took a life on his own. Yeah. He had his own personality, and he lived, which almost 16 years. So that's long for a Cocker Spaniel.
Indeed.
So I wanted to immortalize him.
Well, and in fact you did. Is it different when you're writing I want to word this correctly, with an animal as the main character as opposed to a person, because you can write dialogue and you formulate dialogue every day, but with a dog, you sort of have to think like a dog, right?
That is true, but I have a dog now, his name is Winston, and with Logan, believe it or not, dogs understand so much, they're more like people than dogs and animals. So he sort of they take on a life of their own.
Maybe there's a Winston book down the road.
Oh, no, I can't do a Winston book because someone already thought of that one, so, but there's a Logan sequel that I'm not going to give too much away for next year.
No, we're saving that seed for you to come back. We're talking to Christine Ricci-McNamee about her charming book, Logan and the Lost Luggage, which was published this year, 2022, her second book. And it's a book I think that kids can really relate to. It's a gentle book. Is that a fair
Yes,
fair
it
way of
is.
saying it?
Yes. Everybody will enjoy it. Parents will enjoy reading it to their kids, and because it's not only entertaining, but it also teaches children to work together, teaches children geography. So there's like a double meaning to it in a way. And I wasn't being intentional when I wrote it. I was just trying to be entertaining.
Which it was. And it's interesting that the other animals sort of have their own personality.
They do.
And they represent their countries.
They do, yep.
So
I thoroughly researched that. They do.
Did you have the 7 countries in mind when you wrote the book, or did you make some changes along the way?
No, I sort of had it all in my head, which countries I wanted them to go to.
Even Antarctica?
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
Interesting. Well, as I said, each animal takes on the personality of his country in addition to the personality of what kind of animal he is.
They do.
And that makes it that much more fun. But Logan shows great leadership ability when he brings these 7 animals together
He
for
sure
a
does.
common cause.
He sure does.
Ultimately, Logan is in a situation where he wants to come through for his family.
Yes.
And he knows there's a reward down the road.
That's correct,
too.
yep.
And so he's got, I was going to say the carrot on a stick, but he's not a horse. The horse appears later in the book, but he has
motivation.
Exactly.
Yep. He's motivated. Yep.
Yes.
Plus, he loves his family and he wants to help them.
Yes.
He wants to be a hero.
Yes. It's interesting that there's interaction between the other dogs in the cargo area of the plane too.
Yes. Yep.
Gives one thought. I mean, you don't know when you're flying, you don't know what's below you, and
that
there
is
could be all
very
kinds
true.
of good conversations going on between.
That's very true. You don't know what the animals are thinking.
Yes, yes. Are there times with Logan and now with your dog Winston where you can almost imagine what they're thinking when you're with them?
Oh yes, the animals are very smart. They are very smart. If they can only talk.
Yes, or write.
That's right. That is true. That is true.
Is the family? We don't see much about the family. We know there's a John involved, but is it your family?
No, they just made up people. Not an actual family. That part is fictional.
Well, it's a work of fiction.
Yeah.
Sure. Logan Airport is almost a character in the story because that's where it's on the cover, that's where the story begins. And for those of us who live in the community and who've made numerous trips to Logan, all airports seem to be unique in their own way. Logan is. And Logan is sort of one of the stars of the book.
It is. It is. Very iconic with the control tower. It almost looks like a golf ball on a tee.
Yes.
So I wanted that to be on the cover.
Did the book require any special research, or was just all in your head before you sat down to do it?
I did research the different countries and what animals from each country. That part I did research, but the rest of it was mostly in my head.
And I sort of asked this before, I'm repeating it, but maybe in a different way. Did anything change along the way you had it in your head, and did you think maybe this would work better than that?
No, I had to change a couple of, I think originally the Antarctica was Alaska, but I had to change that because of the penguins. And one of the names of one of the animals, I think when we went to Sicily, I had to change his name. But that's about it, really. Everything was just left the way it was.
But you, as we've talked about, but I think it bears repeating, these animals really represent their countries.
Yes, they
so
do.
Fernando is a bull.
Bull,
You think
yeah.
of bullfighting in Spain, and the artwork that was provided
Yes.
captures the bull ring. That makes the book that much more fun and widens the spectrum for the young people who get exposed to this.
It does, yep.
So we see right through your plan. Was this a fun experience, or were there nights when you just said, "Oh, geez, I have to put this down for a while"?
No, it was actually a lot of fun. In fact, I still read it once in a while. I can't put it down myself.
Really?
I can't believe that I actually, it's real now and it's actually tangible.
Well, you,
Especially with the illustrations.
you have a lot to be proud of.
Thank you.
We touched on this briefly, but maybe you can give us a little more of a hint. What you're working on now?
The second book, Luella and the Librarian,
Right.
that'll be coming out. That's about a little girl in a library.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the sequel to the Logan book, that will be out probably next spring.
Are they basically for the age group that this book is for?
Yes.
Is this something you think you want to continue to pursue, or can you imagine yourself writing the great American novel sometime?
No, I think I like writing children's books.
Mm-hmm.
I sort of like this genre.
Oh, good.
I think I'll stick with this. It's quite enjoyable and fun, and I plan on doing some school visits and meeting with the children and reading it to them, and it gets me excited when they get excited, and I see the smiles on their faces. So it's fun.
Sure. It's instant feedback.
It is.
So
it is.
That's great. We should conclude by talking about the fact that you won several awards as
I
a
did.
student.
Oh boy, yes, I did.
And I assume, I'm not a writer, I assume as a writer, the real gratification is when you hold your book in your hand like you're doing right now.
Yes.
But when you receive the awards of the caliber that you did, is that validation for the hard work you've put in?
It is. I don't do it for the awards. It is, though. It's nice to be acknowledged. I entered Logan in a few little awards just to see what happens. But if you win, you win. If you don't, you don't.
Mm-hmm.
I just enjoy doing it.
Well, you have, and it's one more thing to be proud of.
Thank you.
Well, Christine Ricci-McNamee, thank you very much for the visit.
Oh,
we
thank
really
you for having
enjoyed our
me.
introduction to to Logan and all of his friends, and we look forward to your next work, not only with Logan, but your trip to the library. And
thank you.
We'll save that seat for you so you can come and talk to us about your next work.
Very much. I'll come back. It was a pleasure.
It was our pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us on this edition of On the Bookshelf. I'm Pete Solomon. We'll see you next time.